Hello and welcome to Crucible of Worlds for more dedicated legacy action. Today, at the request of a donor, I am happily playing some POX. This is a deck that I really enjoy because there's nothing better than making your opponent unable to play the game and miserable, and that is what we're trying to do here. So, the actual card POX is not in this deck. It hasn't been for a while in these POX builds, but we do run Smallpox, so this is a thing that really depletes resources across the board. Now we're trying to do this and stop our opponent being able to really play much into the game. So we've got some Dark Rituals to power out some powerful stuff like Liliana the Veil early, or Crucible of Worlds, which can offset the damage from Smallpox. We've got loads of disruption in here, so we've got Sheoldred's Edicts, we've got Hymn to Tourach, we've got Thoughtseizes, we've got the Bloodchief's Thirst, obviously the Liliana as I mentioned before, and we've got some sinkholes, so we can really lean into the land destruction plan. Who doesn't love seeing a sinkhole? And we have a couple of Karns that can go and find things like Liquimetal Coating, just to help us strip away any resource our opponent does have, or give us an Ensnaring Bridge to sit behind until the time is right. It's interesting that this list I found, I think this was from Eternal Weekend Asia, didn't have a Mycosynth Lattice, which I thought was interesting, but I guess we're just going to remove all their permanents anyway. So, the main way we're winning this game, apart from slowly, is Urza Saga. So we're going to use this to make some constructs. We've got a modest little package of Spellbomb, Retrofitter Foundry, Bauble, and maps, so we can go and find more sagas. We can go and get the Retrofitter Foundry going and grind out some value that way. And then we have ourselves some Mishra's factories, which can also beat down alongside the Crucible of Worlds. This should hopefully be enough to get us over the line. They could be slow games, but our opponent might concede out of frustration first. We do have some Wastelands that we can recur because Crucible of Worlds and Wasteland is near and dear to my heart for many reasons, but I do love doing that to people. We got a few business lands like Bojuka Bog and Cabal Pit and the Castle Locthwain and a whole bunch of swamps. And yeah, we're just going to grind our opponents absolutely into the dust. The Bloodchief's Thirst is an interesting addition. You don't see this removal spell that often, but it is a thing that just reliably kills the Psychic Frog. And for 4 mana, we can kill anything. Now, are we going to get to 4 mana? Uncertain, but we'll see. Sideboard-wise, what do we have available to us? We've got a modest Karn board of Needle, Coating, Bridge, and Cage. We've got some removal in the form of Toxic Deluge, Feed the Swarm, which can also hit the opposing ley lines. We've got some Bontu's Last Reckoning, if we just need a cheap sweeper that can clean up anything. We have Ashiok, the Dream Render, so we can really mess people up. It's kind of like an opposition agent that does some other stuff too. We can mill ourselves if we have a Crucible in play. That's always a nice one. We've got some Graveyard Hate in the Faerie Macabre to go alongside our Cage, and then another Karn for matchups where we actually want that. So when our opponent's playing artifacts, we probably want a Karn to just shut them right down. And that is the list we're playing today. Do love a bit of POX. Hopefully we'll have a good time, and our opponents will have a very bad time. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to see my videos early, you can become a YouTube member for just £1 a month on my channel, and that gets you access to my videos early. Alright, let's POX some people into the dirt. So our opening hand is a bit of an odd one. I think I will keep it. We just need one more land and then we're really cooking. So I believe in this one. If I remember rightly, our opponent does like to play goblins. Could be wrong on that one. I'm pretty sure they're a goblins player. Boom, Lackey straight up. So we don't get to kill this Lackey unless we draw a removal spell. We did not draw a removal spell. We did draw the land that I wanted though. So we're going to Thoughtseize our opponent and try and take away the scariest thing the Lackey can do. So a Muxus would be a nice one to avoid. I guess we take the Ringleader. Stop them wishing for more wishes in the forms of goblins. We don't really want to have to deal with a turn 2 Ringleader gassing up their hand and just letting this Lackey go to town. Now if they've drawn a Muxus this turn and they get us, then so be it, I guess. How bad is it? Could just be Pile Driver. Just save on that mana. It is. Probably going to see the bad lands rather than the Wasteland here. Oh no, we are seeing the Wasteland. Interesting. I guess they want to preserve their own bad lands from our Wastelands. That makes sense. So what are we doing now? A Vexing Bauble isn't very useful here. Does a Retrofitter Foundry do anything? Not especially. Does a Wasteland do anything? Not really. Our Saga is very bad. I think we are on the... I don't really want to Thoughtseize my opponent when they've got 2 cards. But I guess this Thoughtseize isn't getting better, is it? Alright, let's try it out. See if they've got anything else. Alright, they had nothing. Understood. So I think we just play out the Foundry. So this Pile Driver is going to hit pretty hard. But from next turn we can start putting some stuff in the way of it. Yeah, Pile Driver is going to come in for 5. Honestly, it's nice to be attacked by a Pile Driver. It's been a hot minute. Alright, a Lackey, this doesn't really matter. It's more damage for the Pile Driver. We're going to be blocking that anyway. It's more damage overall because it's a 1-1 that can attack. So this Urza Saga won't ever tap for mana, which is the problem. So we need the mana for the Foundry. I guess we play out this Saga and see if our opponent burns a Wasteland on it. Are they going to... Oh, they just let us get it in there. That's nice of them. Okay, I think we have to play out this Bauble now. So we're not playing a build with Tabernacle, which would be really good in a situation like this. Broadside Bombardiers. So we block this. We take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we don't have a route out of this one. I guess we could crack the Bauble and try and draw a removal spell. Maybe that's something we could have done. But didn't feel great there. However, we can just board in all the removal you've ever seen. Grafdigger's Cage does stop their lackeys. No, it doesn't. That's from libraries, isn't it? Sorry. Do we want the Ashok to stop Goblin Matron? I don't really think that's worth it here. So we've got 5 cards I'm interested in. We don't require Vexing Bauble here. We don't require the Nihil Spellbomb. That gives us 2 slots at least. Thoughtseizes are fine. The Sinkholes don't feel the best here. Maybe we'll strip a couple of Sinkholes out. And that leaves us trying to find 1 more slot. I think we need to keep everything that does removal. I want the Karns to go and fetch the Ensnaring Bridge. We could always just board out the Karns and have the Ensnaring Bridge there, but that doesn't feel great. I think we do still want the Karns in the deck. I like the hint. Maybe it's just another Sinkhole. Remove their stuff. Try and stick something. Okay. Liliana is pretty good. Turn 1 Liliana. Turn 2 him to Tourach. Okay, yeah. We'll give that a go. So we have removal just saved up in play. There's an argument as to what we're discarding with this Liliana, though. It probably should just be the Liliana. But that could be removal down the line. Alright, we got Cavern of Souls out of our opponent. That suggests that they don't really need it for fixing. Let's see a Lackey here. No, an Aetherval. Alright. Aetherval is pretty annoying for us, to be honest. So let's fire off this hymn. Oh wait, we need to play our land first, don't we? Castle Locthwain. Then we'll fire off this hymn. And we'll plus this Liliana. I'll keep this Bloodchief's Thirst because it's removal. The Wasteland is not very good when our opponent has an Aetherval, because they're going to be able to play their stuff at some point anyway. Do we have a Pithing Needle? Do we board that in? I don't think we did. No, we did not. We can fetch it with a Karn if we want to. They can Wasteland us. That's obviously very annoying for us. An Urborg. I kind of want to have access to a land. Am I willing to just get rid of the Bloodchief's Thirst to make sure we have more mana? I think so. We're definitely still up in the Liliana here. Okay, so the Vial is really annoying for our Liliana because we can't kill their stuff with Sorcery Speed removal because they put it in our end step. I don't feel like a particularly great matchup when we don't have access to anything like a Tabernacle. Munitions Expert. Deals 1 damage to our Liliana. It stops us from ultimating. Alright, let's make you sacrifice your only creature, please. I would love to be able to get this Crucible of Worlds in play. So if we can draw a land next turn, we can get the Crucible and we can either Edict or take the last card out of their hand. Either of those plays is good. Okay, so I didn't play a land, so I got 2 cards. Land, please. A Dark Ritual. It's basically a land, isn't it? I'm going to get this Castle Locthwain out. And we will activate our Liliana to go +1. So our opponent can put in some reasonable sized creatures now because their Val's on 3. Yes, Crucible of Worlds is my favourite Magic Gathering card. Although Dark Depths is a very close second these days. They didn't put in a creature on our end step, which is beautiful for us. Feed the Swarm is enchantments, not artifacts. I'll deal with the Vial. Do I want to activate the Castle Locthwain here or not? How useful is this Feed the Swarm? If we activate Castle Locthwain and find... Yeah, I think we're just activating the castle here. It does cost us 2 life. Toxic Deluge. Okay. I will plus and discard this Feed the Swarm. So we just get a better choice of what to discard there by doing that. It ends up being the same either way round for us. It's going to be a Ringleader, a Sling Gang Lieutenant. So we have a Toxic Deluge which can clean this up next turn. But we do need to get to next turn. Alright, so coming in at the Liliana so we can't minus it. Our opponent's got no cards in hand. I'd like to draw a land or something here. Yep, that's close enough, isn't it? Let's play out the Expedition map. Let's cast this. X equals 1. Get out of here, goblins. So they're going to ping us for 3. Can it sack itself? It can, yeah. So they're going to ping us for 3. They also gain life on each ping. Right, we're just upping our Liliana. So we have access to the Urza Sagas of the world. So I like having that. Maybe we can grind our opponent into the dust here. Let's go and find an Urza Saga. Play the Urza Saga. I will plus our Liliana here. Probably had a Goblin Warchief they couldn't put in. So from next turn we can start making some threats and working our way towards winning the actual game here. Can use the Urborg in our graveyard, kind of like a Lotus Petal every turn, if we don't draw a land. Right, they've put this to 5. So they've identified that they need to do something big, like a Muxus here. Activate the Liliana. If they put in a Siege Gang Commander, that'd be great. I love Siege Gang Commander. Like, obviously not great for us, but I do enjoy seeing cards I enjoy on the other side of the table. Got a lot of love for goblins. This is probably going up to 6 if it went up to 5. Yep. So we can start attacking now, and we might have found our route to victory here. Yep, our opponent agrees, and we get to churn out our guys and win. Excellent. Removal is good. Let's just try and do that again. Do I want this Pithing Needle? I quite like the Pithing Needle to shut off their Aether Vial. That's probably better than a Sinkhole, isn't it? Let's try that. So this is a Thoughtseize into Karn. Karn will shut off something like an Aether Vial, but we'll be under pressure quite quickly, but we can go and get the Ensnaring Bridge. I think this is okay. This is turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Karn, turn 3 Ensnaring Bridge. And we're pretty good at actually emptying our hand compared to some decks that sometimes have the old Ensnaring Bridge. Right, so we're in the let's hope we can take out the best thing they have. Toxic Deluge is nice to have. I still think we're just going to Thoughtseize here. Oh, they're playing the new Goblin. This is cool. End step, create a 1/1 Goblin token. Okay, is it the Boggart Trawler? We can just strip them off of black mana here. That's pretty good. Yeah, don't hit that. So we kind of want our opponent to play out all their goblins, and then we can just Toxic Deluge them. Alright, let's see if they drew something scarier than see a Slicer Goblin. They did not. But they are playing out another Goblin. So we're going to give our opponent a load of cards with this Runbound Horde Master, unfortunately. We can take them off of some mana, so they don't get to do very much with it. Right, so they still have to cast the goblins. Yes, this is fine. Go Dark Ritual, Toxic Deluge, X is 2 here. That will strip this out, this out. Actually, if we do X is 1, this dies, then all these dies. So we can save ourselves a point of damage here. So they get to exile a bunch of stuff off the top. Oh no, sorry, the Horde Master dies first because of the way that the minuses work. Then we'll take out their Wasteland just to reduce their overall mana count. Now, we are a bit slow in terms of what we do next. But we've stopped our opponent from doing anything. An Urborg. Alright, that could be useful later on down the line. I don't know if I want to play this Fell the Profane as a land or hold it for a spell, so we're holding it for now. That might mean that we have to take 3 damage that otherwise we wouldn't have to. But we'll see. An Urza's Saga. Sure, let's get that ticking. That's probably better than a Karn at this point. Although, the Karn into Liquimetal Coating here is pretty bananas. I think that's a pretty strong play. Maybe I shouldn't have played this Saga out thinking about it. I'll play out the castle as to not give our opponent mana if they need black mana for something. Because that will allow Wasteland to at least cast the Munitions Expert. We don't want the Munitions Expert coming down because it can kill our 1/1 Saga. Alright, we got the GGs from the opponent. We successfully POX them out of the game. Alright, 1 round in the book. Let's go to round 2. Well, well, well. That's a lot of Smallpoxes for a 1-land hand, isn't it? I don't think we can keep this one. Yikes. I think this is better than the previous option. We don't really have the mana to leverage Retrofitters. We do want to keep the mana in the Dark Ritual and the Expedition map. Probably the Smallpox, because we're just so low on lands. That's kind of awkward. Our opponent mulligan to 6. We're going to see if we can punch a hole with this Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize, let's go. Wowzers trousers. We don't care about the Bauble. Double Monolith is really annoying. If we take the Lotus Petal, it might take a while to get Metalcraft. And that's probably the best way that we can slow them down here. I don't like it, but it's where we are, I think. So our opponent is on some sort of Mystic Forge build. We do not have access to something like a Null Rod, but we do have something that is a little bit like a Null Rod in Karn. So that'll do. But it means we have to get to 4 mana. That's the only downside. Alright, so the Workshop, the Opal, they found a key for turn. So next turn they can get Metalcraft. Is this a turn we have to Dark Ritual just to make another land drop? Let's find out. We could be Dark Ritual, Expedition Map, crack it, get a Wasteland, Wasteland their Urza's Workshop. Hope for the best. Or would I like to do this? Honestly, I think the Wasteland line is still better here. Dark Ritual, crack Expedition Map, find the Wasteland, deploy the Wasteland, waste the land. Okay. Maybe our opponent won't be able to play any spells for a while. We can but hope. Ooh, yeah. doing the POX thing. Another land. This is excellent. This means you get to play out this Saga and deploy Retrofitter Foundry, and next turn we can start cranking out tokens and try and win the game that way. Maybe we're going to be getting... Oh no, we don't have a Pithing Needle here. We just need to work towards Karn. That's the thing. Yikes. There's a Saga. That's a bit scary. So they play the Vexing Bauble here. That gives them access to mana off of this Mox Opal, so next turn they might be able to play the Monolith. And I think when that starts happening, we're in trouble. Mishra's Factory. This will help us close the game quicker, so I think I'm going to play the Factory over the Swamp. Because it might just be a matter of how many turns do we actually get to attack our opponent. We need to make the most of them. So the Mishra's Factory can just tap itself to give us additional power on our constructs. If our opponent has a land here, then they can start churning out some bigger constructs than us. A Voltaic Key. Sure, that's fine. Another Voltaic Key. So we've got 2 cards in hand, they're both Basalt Monolith. Let's just make this guy now. Right, make some more guys. We get to tutor with our... So none of these really helps out. They're both redraws. This one is colourless mana redraw. That's probably marginally better. Our opponent does have some Lotus Petals and stuff, so maybe they sack their own Bauble at some point and we can stop that from being an issue. Right, so we play this Factory out. We'll boost the size of our construct here. So this is 5 damage. Next turn we can swing for so that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yes, we have exactly lethal with these double factories. Let's see if we can pull it off. Right, they're floating mana with the Saga. They're probably going to go and get something like a Lotus Petal here. Just for a little bit of additional mana. Is the one card they've drawn this turn good? So there's a Lotus Petal. Yeah, so they can use this mana now to make the Basalt Monolith. And then all of a sudden they have a ridiculous amount of mana because they get to just go wild with it with the keys. If they found something like a One Ring, that's going to suck for us. If they find the Mystic Forge, we might be able to beat that. Which almost certainly means it's going to be the One Ring. Kozilek's Command is pretty annoying as well for us. So we play a Karn, we at least have an answer locked and loaded in this Sheoldred's Edict. Playing out the other Basalt Monolith, that's interesting. They have a Karn. Okay. How much mana do they have? 3 mana, so this is going to be an Ensnaring Bridge line, I feel. Ensnaring Bridge it is. Understood. We can answer the Karn, but our opponent has a lot of mana, so the top of their deck could be absolutely devastating for us, which is often the case when you play in mono-black decks. You can't control the top of your opponent's library, unless you're playing Lantern Control. Okay, so what do we need to beat this? We need our own Karn. If we draw our own Karn, do we play that over killing this? Okay, we don't have to think about that now. Each opponent sacrifices a Planeswalker of their choice. Get out of here, Karn. Now, our opponent's not going to have any trouble casting spells because they've got triple keys. Right, they're untapping some monoliths. This might just be them untapping monoliths for next turn, so they can get some F6 value on our turn, because their deck sometimes takes a while to click through. But no, they're going to be getting a spell of some description going. Is it the One Ring? The One Ring has some interesting anti-synergy with the Ensnaring Bridge, but with the amount of keys and mana they have right now, that'll probably just be lights out. We probably need to draw a Karn this turn. I doubt we're going to get another turn after this one if our opponent's saving up something big. This looks like a Kozilek's Command, the amount of mana they put in their pool here. They're going to get to scry and make a bunch of mana, guys. Yep, there it is. So now they got 5 mana they can spend on whatever they find. So X equals 5, that's a lot of looks at one of their big 4-drops, whether that's the Karn, the Mystic Forge, or the Terrifying One Ring. Okay, they found something big. Karn, the Great Creator. Am I making a Retrofitter's Foundry token or cycling this Bauble? We get to do either or. I think we need to cycle the Bauble here. A Hymn to Tourach. Not really where I want to be right now. What would you like to reveal from outside the game? Is it the One Ring? No, they're going to have 4 One Rings in their deck. It's probably going to be... Oh, okay, they're just going to Lattice lock us. Yeah, that's pretty good too. We can take that out of their hands. That doesn't have to be a problem. But winning this game is not going to be easy. Sinkhole. Well, you know what our opponent doesn't have? Any lands. Okay. Let's take that Lattice out so we're not dead to it immediately. Now our opponent can then shoot over something else with a Karn. I'm surprised they actually went for the Lattice there when they know that we have discard in our deck. Like they've seen the Thoughtseize already. You could just plus your Karn to keep something to keep us at bay. You could get something else. What are they going to find? The One Ring. Okay, so they did have a One Ring in the sideboard. You don't see that often from these decks. There it is. Okay, so we're probably going to see another activation of the One Ring here. Oh, a Glaring Fleshraker. How are we going to win this one? A Karn. That's probably what we need to draw here. We've got 2 blockers. So even if they have cards in hand, we can sort ourselves out in that fashion. They can't tick up the Karn. Sorry, they can't tick down the Karn yet. So they have to tick it up and put something like the One Ring as a creature, which is fine to do. But we need a Karn right now. Okay, we found the Karn. That is something, isn't it? We can take out their Mox Opal here. Is there any 1-drops I would like here? I don't think so. I think we're just going to plus on this Mox Opal. Take away some of their mana. We've got 2 6/6s back to block. We can turn the factory into a creature. Not that our opponent necessarily can attack through the One Ring. We really need this Karn to stick around for more turns. Now we can still lose to the Fleshraker. We don't have something that kills the Fleshraker in our sideboard, like Sky Sovereign or anything of that ilk. So, could be a tough one. Right, they're activating the Karn to make the One Ring a creature. It can't attack because of their own Ensnaring Bridge, but it means if we blow up the Ensnaring Bridge somehow, then attacking isn't great. A Sinkhole. What can we find for 3 mana that actually helps us out here? I don't mind the Liquimetal Coating. We can shut their Karn down with it. Never gets to activate again. That seems like the way here, doesn't it? So I think we're going minus on this. This is actually a situation where having a Lattice would be interesting. Yes, we'll use the ability. Against Liquimetal Coating. We will play a Liquimetal Coating here. We'll blow up their only land. No mana for you, opponent. And then in their upkeep, we will Liquimetal Coating their Karn. Oh wait, no, we can't Liquimetal Coating anything because of their Karn, right? We need to get rid of their Karn first. That was a bit loose. So they can minus their Karn and kill it to get something. And that apparently is what our opponent wants to do. Let's make the spawn an artifact. Are they going to get a Pithing Needle and name our Karn? Tormod's Crypt. Okay, so this gets countered, but gives them a mana off of their little guy. Oh wow, they're just scooping it up. Ooh, Karn was good. You know what I'm going to be boarding in? Another copy of Karn. I think I would like access to this Pithing Needle in the main deck. Uncertain about this cage, because it can stop them playing stuff off the top. I don't really like the Bauble or the Spellbomb here, so that's 2 cards straight in. Blowing up their land does feel actively good for us here. The Ashiok doesn't really matter here, because they're not searching the library apart from Urza Saga, and I don't think that's a good enough reason to do that when we have a bunch of land destruction. Do I want this cage in the main? What would we have instead is the question. We've got a little bit of removal in the Bloodchief's Thirst. Do I want Toxic Deluge over this Bloodchief's Thirst? Because this is going to cost us 4 mana to kill a Fleshraker. This will only cost us 3, and we'll take out all the tokens with it. So I think I like the Toxic Deluge more. Alright, let's submit it and see if we can grind our opponent into the dirt. Not a big fan of the Smallpox. Am I supposed to just be digging to Karn? I like the Liliana. I like the fact that we have an answer to Karn or Fleshraker. Alright, I'll keep this. I'll put his mulligan to 5. So maybe a well-placed Sinkhole will do everything it needs to. Urza's Saga. Would love to be able to kill that. Manifold Key. Lotus Petal. Do I want to shut down this key? Or do I want to aim for a payoff? If we name Urza's Saga or Karn, that really jams us up a bunch. I think we have to name the One Ring. And then next turn we can Sinkhole them before they get to tutor for another key. Naming key would have been reasonable there, but it might not be that handy. We'll see. Because they have 4 mana this turn anyway. Okay, so they're just going to go for a construct, aren't they? A swamp, you say? Alright, let's Sinkhole away. They will make a construct here. But our plan is to Smallpox and take out the construct. We're going to take a hit from the construct. But then next turn we can Smallpox it away. Or we can Liliana, depending on what we feel is going to be best. Smallpox hitting their land creature and a card from their hand, though, is good. Oh, yeah, okay. This is going to be a real nice Smallpox, I think. Especially if they leave, like, one just good business card in hand. What we want to see. The One Ring. So this gives them protection, but they can't activate it. It obviously doesn't grow their construct, actually, because they sacrifice a letter spell. Oh, this is going to be a sweet turn. File this in your calendar of horrible things to do to another human being right now. Loving it. Another Smallpox. Don't really want the other Smallpox. What are we going to sacrifice here? Probably basic Swamp here. Or we could play this tapped and just Smallpox away everything. That felt like a pretty disgusting Smallpox to me. Down to nothing, opponent. Enjoy. Now, we do need to actually put something together that wins the game, which is always the weakness of POX. I do like playing Bloodghast and POX, but that's just me because Bloodghast is one of my all-time favourite creatures because I'm weird like that. Land? Not a land. Okay, we're just going to keep going for a bit. A Lotus Petal. A Retrofitter's Foundry. That is something. That can start churning out some threats. Now, they're not the biggest threats, but they're better than nothing. Can't do anything this turn, so we're just going to have 6. Get that sweet value. We're already a little bit ahead on our clock anyway. So we got a cushion. And our opponent's deck has a lot of operations it needs to conduct. We'll hold up Sheoldred's Edict and Retrofitter's Foundry activation. And we're just going to be playing like the worst copy of Bitter Blossom with this Retrofitters. And Mox Opal. This is going to be live. Good Monolith. That's a lot of mana. So they can play another one of their good 4-drops. Something like a Karn. A Vexing Bauble. Okay, so they're going to crack the Vexing Bauble here. City of Traitors. Okay. The green light to make a small little friend. A Castle Locthwain, you say? Don't mind if I do. I think getting a Liliana in here is just better. Just having that ticking up. Creating some card advantage is going to be... Well, not card advantage, but the ability to like wrath our opponent's board later on. It's going to be useful. It's actually card disadvantage for us. But it means that they can't ever keep anything in hand. Which may or may not be good for us. We'll see. We will not discard the Sheoldred's Edict, though. I can live with discarding the other Liliana. Probably the Smallpox. But I think the Sheoldred's Edict is too important. Manifold Keys. That's nothing for our opponent there. A Wasteland. We'll always be firing that off, I think. Disguise of the Liliana. Tap our servo. How much is this? It's 1 mana to make a guy. And then 3 mana to untap. So I think we're just going to make another 1-1 here. And if we draw a land, we can then try and get a 4-4. I think that works out better for us. Also, making sure we have something to attack with if we need to. Smallpox is kind of handy too. Are they going to keep this card in their hand? Another copy of the One Ring, sure. Doubling our clock. Powerful. Love to get this into play. I think I'm willing to discard my Smallpox here. Just want to have a Lily on 6 so that if I need to, I can just go wild with it. Oh yeah, we attacked and we didn't do any damage. That was a bit weird. Our opponent's not going to have any haste creatures. I'm supposed to make one of these into a 1-1 now. A land. Well, this is probably going to be the game, isn't it? Can our opponent have anything here? Don't know. Let's make sure that they don't. And that is probably going to be the game. Because we just plus it on the Chrome Mox, on the Mox Opal. And yeah, our opponent's had enough. That is another victory for us with POX. So we are 2-0. Not a bad start. Let's see how round 3 feels. Want to play... Oh dear. We have a lot of lands, so we could certainly get away with Smallpoxing. We could just play an Urza Saga game. Sure, we'll give it a go. Can't be wastelanded on 1 at least. Birds of Paradise. Also, this is my favourite art for Birds of Paradise. I love the 7th edition art. Yep, you've got it. Now, why shouldn't I Smallpox them? Eat it. They always say bolt the bird, but what about give it a horrible infectious illness that also blows up their land and a card from their hand? That still works, right? Our opponent is probably on Nardu or Cradle Control. I'll get rid of this additional copy of Karn. Like, the Smallpox is never getting better there. And that might just be able to stop the game from even being a real game. Like, we've all been in those situations in Legacy where you wasteland your opponent and it becomes a non-game. We're trying to do that with Smallpoxes. And sometimes that'll work. I don't know if it will today, because our opponent is probably going to have a lot of mana dorks in their deck. Another forest, another birds. No, this is a Green Sun Zenith. Sure. You can normally tell what a spell is, well, if it's an X spell, based on how long it takes them to cast it. A Sinkhole, you say? I don't hate a Sinkhole here. What I want to get rid of, though, their basic forest or their Dryad Arbor. The basic forest is obviously harder for us to interact with. Alright, let's just get rid of this forest. Our opponent clearly wants more mana. And it's our moral duty to say no to that and make them have a miserable time. This gives us the option of drawing into a wasteland. Okay. And so it gives us the option of drawing into a wasteland or a Smallpox for more value. Allosaurus Shepherd. So the Tropical Island tells us our opponent is probably on the Nadu Chord build, which is kind of suggested by the Birds of Paradise. You tend not to see birds that often. Play this one out. So birds, like in the Cradle Control decks, you won't really see those very much. Let's get Nihil Spellbomb. So we can make bigger constructs by holding this around, or we could draw a card. If we draw a card, maybe we get some removal, like a Bloodchief's Thirst. I think I'm just going to hold on to make sure our constructs are big enough that we can hold the fort with them. Now the thing is, if our opponent is a Nadu deck, they will just go over what we're doing. The amount of cards that the Nadu deck can draw is just too much for us to keep up. They can deploy a Nadu this turn if they want to, or if they have it in hand and want to deploy. Right, I'll take one from this Allosaurus Shepherd, that's fine by me. Liliana of the Veil. I think I want to get a creature that's bigger than theirs. I'm not going to play this Saga because we're not going to be able to milk it for all of the Saga points if we play it now. By not playing it now, we don't get to use our Nihil Spellbomb and draw a card. I don't think Spellbomb's going to be a relevant game object apart from being an artifact to pump our Saga. So I'm not going to play this Saga so we can get most amount of creatures possible out of it. This means next turn we could play it and then just make constructs on 4 turn cycles in a row. Alright, mana is not going to be a problem for our opponent. They can probably dump their entire hand right now. Okay, this looks like a Green Sun Zenith for Nadu. I don't think we're going to beat this. Oh, this is a Chord for Nadu. If you show me no mans, I will scoop this game up. When it's just the Ranger, maybe we're okay. Depends what that last card in our opponent's hand is. So we might be getting punished for not playing the Liliana and ticking up. If they just have 2 cards that are the absolute nuts here. Right, bouncing the Trop after floating to untap the Dryad Arbor. This gets the Made trigger. There you got another Quirion Ranger with it, sure. They're playing a Quirion Ranger. This gives them another Nadu trigger and some more mana. So it's effectively free for them to cast. I'm not sure how we're supposed to beat what our opponent's putting down. Draw a Dark Ritual. That's what, 3 mana, 4 mana, 5, 6. So that's not enough to do a Karn into Ensnaring Bridge line. Okay. Alright, so stopped. They get to do this next turn as well if they want. This is an interesting play into our onboard construct. Is it a mistake? Let's find out. Maybe it is. Alright, that's a pretty good freebie to get. So, let's... I don't really like that Urborg. Making them sacrifice 1 creature is not going to do much. I think we're just going to make a construct here. And we don't have Pithing Needle to get, so we can't Current Ranger with it, which I would love to do. What do we want here? None of these feel particularly useful. Maybe the Foundry at least gives us the ability to have flying blockers if we end up playing a fair game, which I don't really want to have to play here. Let's play Saga out. So we attack here. They can block with Nadu plus Ranger, or Nadu plus Dryad Arbor off of the Wood of Foothills, but that's fine for us, because then the Nadu's not in play, and we didn't even have to target it. So yeah, they just took 4 like I suspected they would, but that's 4 damage that we don't need to do in the future. So what are they going to get here? A Dryad Arbor. Right, they didn't use their Rangers in our turn. They are gated by the forests they have. Surprised these decks don't play a single Yawgmoth, because if you have the Yawgmoth, all your lands are forests. You can untap your Cradle, where you can bounce your Cradle with the Ranger, and then replay your Cradle. You can also save your Cradle from Wastelands by playing the Ranger as well. Something to consider if you're looking at playing this core deck for Eternal Weekend. Although, by the time this video goes out, you've probably already done your deck and are ready for the tournament. Because I think this video goes out on Friday. Unlikely. But maybe you've got time to slip in a single Yawgmoth. It's worth thinking about. A Savannah? Yep, so we know our opponent's got a Savannah and a Trop in their hand. Or, well, they don't have a Savannah in there anymore, but they've also got a Trop in their hand. 5 mana, this is natural order, and we can scoop it up. Alright, they're untapping the Dryad Arbor. What do they got here? A Noble Hierarch. What are we doing with all that mana? Because they don't have enough to get a Crater Hoof. What could they Green Sun Zenith with 6 mana? Potentially 7. Oh, yes, they can make all their things. Yeah, that's some 5/5s you have there, opponent. If they attack with 3 5/5s and the Nadu, we have to chump block. If they attack with just these 2, then we don't have to do anything. We are potentially dead on the backswing though. But that is a problem for next turn. Do I need to crack this? We need to have enough damage to force our opponent to chump block here. Let's get Expedition Map in. This grows our constructs. We can play this Urborg. We can go to attacks. These are lethal if they let them through. So they have to. That's what keeping the Nihil Spellbomb around did. It gave us the opportunity to draw into an Expedition Map or something. One Crown Ranger. Is that all you're putting under the bus, is it? That is weird to me, because you could have put the Dried Arbor and bounced it. They're clearly valuing having the Dried Arbor around to tap next turn. I haven't done the maths. I assume it's fine for them. They have five creatures. So this and this will be 5/5, so it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, they have exactly lethal here, right? If they attack with everything apart from the Hierarch. Let's make them see it, though. Oh, they got Crate Hoof this turn. Is that what they were trying to cast last time? We didn't have enough mana. Is it just Big Daddy Crate Hoofs from hand, or are they going to have to natural order for it? Natural order Green Sun Zenith for it. Or maybe they have to Court of Calling for it? That'll do. Okay, so this is the matchup where I would like to board in the removal that we have. I would also like to board in this Grafdigger's Cage. I think that's probably about it. That is still quite a lot of cards we're boarding in. So the Bauble's rubbish. Spellbomb is rubbish. Thoughtseize is fine. Sinkhole is fine. The other removal stuff is fine. The Karn doesn't look great here. How are we winning the game without the Karn, though? Slowly. Sure, let's take out the Karn here. We still need to find a couple more slots to trim. Is the Retrofitter Foundry too slow? Maybe. Can we afford to board out a Retrofitter Foundry when it might be one of the only things we have that actually wins the game? Recurring Wastelands against our opponent is actively good. I guess we don't need this Bojuka Bog, so we can cut that and maybe cut one Liliana. Just keep lower to the ground. Normally you see things like Mox Diamonds and stuff in a lot of the POX decks. This one not having one is interesting to me. We get to take their best card, then we get to take 2 more cards, then we get to kill their creature. We also have our one-of Maze of Ith that's shown up. Not great into the old Nardu. That's it, mulligan more, make our discard better. Let's take a look at your opener. How good is it? Force of Vigor, we don't care about that. Collector Roof, we don't really care about that very much either. The Noble Hierarch is a little bit annoying. Maybe just take that out. They'd probably just go and get a Dried Arbor instead, but then they've used their Green Sun Zenith on a Dried Arbor rather than a payoff. That seems fine. There's obviously stuff they can use the Force of Vigor on, like our Crucible or Retrofitters, that sort of jam. They can also take out our Urza Sagas. Are we going to see a basic forest here? We are. So no Wasteland. They draw a Mana Dork, or are we just Zenithing? Alright, it's the Zenith for the Dried Arbor. So we can hit this with a Wasteland if we want to. Okay, I like this play. Hit them with the Thoughtseize. I'll take their other creature. Now I will Wasteland their land. Now our opponent doesn't really have anywhere to go here. Our Hymn to Tourach is likely to take at least 1 land out of their hand. They're going to play the Verdant Catacombs here. I don't know if they're going to have space for any Surveil lands, but maybe. This can always go and get Dried Arbor as well, which is a reasonable thing to be doing. They're playing around Opposition Agent here. 2 forests. I'm just going to hymn them here rather than Sinkhole. We got the Nardu. Excellent. Although, right now, Nardu would be an easy thing for us to deal with because of our Sheoldred's Edict. I think I'm more likely to hit a forest with our Sinkhole because our Wastelands are just so good here. Oh, that's such a big one here. I think we have to play out the cage. That just shuts off so many cards in their deck. And I will play out this Maze of Ith. If we'd have had an Urborg, we could have Sinkholed as well. But I think just shutting off our opponent's ability to Green Sun Zenith, Natural Order, or Court of Calling is a big deal. A small creature. I will Sinkhole a forest. So we are playing into the fact that we can draw Crucible or more Wastelands by not hitting that Tropical Island. If they have like a really good blue spell, sorry, a really good... actually, why did they let us do that? That was really bad for both of us. Because they could have bounced it with their Ranger. Yeah, that was really loose for both of us there. An Urborg, you say? I'll play out the Urborg. Also, why did I let them hit me for 1? I was too busy moaning about the fact that I made a misplay, that I misplayed again. Fun times. A Sylvan Safekeeper. Would I like our opponent to choose which of these get sacrificed? I think they'd probably sacrifice a Safekeeper here, don't they? So each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature of their choice. I will take out the Ranger right now. That saves us damage, and it means they can't save their lands like they should have done before. So Wasteland becomes a very good draw here. And Crucible? Not a Crucible. 1, 2, 3. Hello, Liliana. Each player will discard a card, please. I don't think we need to try and make them sacrifice the Sylvan Safekeeper. And plussing the Liliana is basically the same thing And if they want to actually attack our creature, they need to sacrifice a land to get through our Maze of Ith anyway. So we're really taxing our opponent's resources here. Verdant Catacombs. If they have a spell, they're priced into casting it. They can't fetch Dried Arbors with their Verdant Catacombs because of our Grafdigger's Cage, which is nice. Would you like to sacrifice a land to deal 1 damage to our Liliana? I doubt it. But they made the attack because we did miss the Maze of Ith earlier. See what the last card in your hand is, please, opponent? Is an Endurance. That'd be good here. Oh my god, why didn't I not play this factory out first? That's so bad of me. What am I doing? Oh dear, oh dear. I'm so excited to hit their card. Oh. What happened there? Did they go for the Dried Arbor? Yeah, we've both made numerous mistakes into each other here. This is not a showcase of how to play Magic the Gathering. What a shocking round. Alright. Imagine how much better things would be if we had this in play. Okay, let us cast this. Smallpox, please. Now we can take out their creature. Imagine if we had a Mishra's Factory here. Our opponent's scooping it up. We did win that one. Felt like we both deserved to lose, if I'm being perfectly honest on that one. Okay, so do I want to do anything differently? Do I want this Liliana back in? It is tempting, but I don't know what we could cut for it. I think we just have to keep the removal in, really. Is Feed the Swarm as good as a Liliana? Maybe it isn't. Maybe we'll do something along those lines. Oh wait, why are we not bringing these Ashioks? Ashiok the Game Ender. Alright, I only had time to board one of them in, I think. Okay. This round has just been a write-off, let's be honest. This hand, though, is pretty darn strong into what our opponent's doing. We'll lead off on the Urborg. That saves us from some awkward moments later on where we want to play a black spell by get something like a Saga online. It is a little awkward with the Smallpox in terms of us wanting to have 3 mana for Deluge. But I think the plan is probably going to be turn to either Edict or Sinkhole, try and slow our opponent down or force them to commit more stuff to the board, that sort of jam, and then sweep everything up with a Deluge and try and keep them buried with the Smallpox later on. So there's going to be more of a final nail in the coffin rather than anything. I would take a Wasteland this turn deck, just letting you know. Does that change anything right now? I don't believe it does. Just play this one out and pass. Another Dried Arbor and a Hierarch. How do I feel about taking out 3 creatures here? Looks pretty good to me. So 1, 2, 3 mana here. So if they have a land, they can cast Nadu next turn. So I think we do have to Nadu and Nomads. So I think we have to go Toxic Deluge X equals 1 here. So it's a 2 for 3. We'll play our Maze of Ith, which is also a swamp because of our Urborg. So it's just the most flexible of the cards we could play. Our opponent is back to square one, I think. Oh, do they really not have any more lands? Now, the issue here is we can't really punish them because we're POX. We need to find something to win the game with. Bloodchief's Thirst is not it. We at least get to blow up their next land. Or creature. Or both. Liliana would be okay here. A factory would be great. I will take a Thoughtseize. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, isn't it? We take the free spell. That stops our win conditions a little bit. Do I take out the Force of Vigor here? Do I take out the Green Sun? Given our hand, I think I'm going to take out the Force of Vigor. I don't want them to have a free spell. I want to be able to win the game at some point if we draw one of these Urza Sagas. Or Factory. Either one gets stuffed by the Force of Vigor. Also like getting information about our opponent's hand there. A Dark Ritual. We can definitely play all the spells in our deck. Kind of shame we don't have Karns, because we have loads of mana to do some pretty gross things with the Karn and just say that's the end of the game. Maybe, I'm not happy with how I sideboarded this round at all. We should have had the Ashioks in as well. It's just, it was a bit of a mess. And we played the game pretty sloppy as well. A Cradle. I will destroy a Cradle. This is how we draw a business spell, isn't it? It is a how we draw a business spell. We're definitely sinkholing here. Are we? If we Dark Ritual out this, I think we're just going to play the Retrofitters out here. I was going to say we could Dark Ritual and get loads of mana and make some stuff. So it's 3 mana to untap. Okay, just trying to work out when we unload these Dark Rituals to make a 4/4. A basic forest. Okay, so the Cradle was bait. Castle Locthwain. What would I like to get rid of here? I'm probably going to get rid of our swamp, I think. That's Smallpox. I will discard one of our many Dark Rituals. The time has come and gone for those. We'll get rid of this basic swamp. Castle Locthwain. And then we get to make a threat now. We're certainly living the POX life here. A Wooded Foothills. We're going to play a 1-drop again, and then we're going to Smallpox and run it back. A Sylvan Safekeeper. I will still make a guy here. Thoughtseize. I don't really care about Thoughtseize. Am I okay sacrificing a land here? I think so. We'll attack first to see if the Sylvan Safekeeper wants to trade. Oh, they pitched the Green Sun Zenith early, didn't they? Okay, they didn't want to trade. We'll get rid of the Castle Locthwain, I guess. What am I getting rid of here, though? I think it's the Thoughtseize, weirdly. It's obviously quite a useful card, but I think the time of Thoughtseizes has come and gone. I'm going to keep the Maze of Ith just in case we need the ability to start firing creatures back away from us. Right, they're back down to no lands again. We do have a win condition in play. It is a very slow and miserable win condition, but it is a win condition. Alright, now we've got a much better win condition. So we get to make a Retrofitters this turn. Next turn we make a Construct, then another Construct. That gets us an Expedition map, which can find us a Wasteland and keep our opponent in the dirt. I think we might have ground our way through this one. I think this is quite a key turn. If they did nothing this turn... Oh, okay, they're doing nothing this turn. That's excellent for us. There's our Retrofitters. Got Sinkhole in the bank. Don't mind one of those. Finally attacking for damage. But now it's going to ramp up a lot because Urza Saga is a pretty powerful Magic Gathering card. What did they discard earlier? Source of Power Shares. A Cradle. Sure. Make a little friend here. I'll make another little friend. So this feels like bait again for a forest, perhaps. I'll take this Grafdigger's Cage, actually. Stop our opponent getting freebies into play. Shut off some cards in their deck. So this is 6 damage. Next time we have lethal. We could have used the Dark Ritual then, actually, to get the Thoughtseize out. And the... Yeah, we get the Thoughtseize or the Sinkhole out there. Alright, we managed to grind it away. What a silly game. That was pretty much a showcase of how not to play Magic the Gathering in the second game in this one. And the sideboarding was sloppy too. Apologies, we still won though. So POX best deck ever maybe? Who knows? Let's go to round 4. Alright, what does this opener do for us? We have a Smallpox we can't cast, but we are on the draw. We have Crucible Wasteland Lock, which would be nice if we could actually cast it. Do I believe in this hand? One land is so few. We do have the Wasteland, which can be mana towards Crucible. So we've got a couple of draws. Go on then. We'll give it a whirl. I can certainly see throwing this one back. I wouldn't keep this one on the play. Just a Polluted Delta, a classic beginning to a game of Magic the Gathering these days. I can Thoughtseize here and they can Brainstorm and hide some cards, or I can Nihil Spellbomb to try and dodge the scariest things our opponent can do. If our opponent has Daze, then it won't matter either way a lot of the time. If they have Brainstorm here, I think we have to Thoughtseize because there could be some decks, a various selection of decks, and they might not have the Brainstorm. They might be Entomb, and this can help break that up a little bit. This is where they just cast Entomb response and show us double reanimates. We're getting some action from our opponent. Is it the Entomb? Is it the Brainstorm? Let's find out together, shall we? It is the Brainstorm. So now our Thoughtseize doesn't get to do the most damage, but it means that our opponent isn't reanimating most likely, unless they have Entomb reanimate, and they just send that on their next turn. Whereas a Nihil Spellbomb can play around that. But let's say our opponent is a Doomsday deck or something, and we want to try and break up their turn 1 or their turn 2 Doomsday. Right, let's see what your bad cards are. Yeah, those are some pretty good bad cards, aren't they? Do I care if my opponent Thoughtseizes me? Maybe. Would like to get this Crucible down at some point. I've taken the Thoughtseize. I like the tools we have available to us right now. I like the ability to play a Spellbomb around Daze, given what our opponent's hand does over there. They can't reanimate on us this turn unless they have Lotus Petals in their deck. So they kept the big monsters in hand with the intention of brainstorming them back. We could have taken the Brainstorm to just strand them with those cards in hand. That's also a fine take, but I don't really want to get Thoughtseized here. I think we can handle the graveyard right now. Okay, we're seeing the put the Surveil trigger on a stack and then Brainstorm one of your big monsters on top and then mill it. That's pretty cool. However, we get to Nihil Spellbomb. Unless they have... Okay, so no Lotus Petal into Reanimate here. So they got rid of the Atraxa. I have to imagine the Archon of Cruelty's done in their hand as well. Let's play this Nihil Spellbomb holding up black mana. Excellent. So now we have the graveyard covered. We have 4 bits of land destruction available to us. Now, some of those we can't cast, and one of them stops us casting other spells as well. So the pros and cons of Smallpox are apparent. A Psychic Frog. Sure, we will Bloodchief Thirst our way. That will take us off of black for the Spellbomb. I don't believe I am sinkholing here. So they must have the Archon of Cruelty back in their hand now because they didn't have an opportunity. Wait, could they not have discarded the Archon to their Psychic Frog in response? I guess we have the Nihil Spellbomb, so they want to try and reanimate something, have it get dealt with, and then next turn try and put the Archon in and then go again. So the Nihil Spellbomb doesn't capture both of their big scary monsters. That makes sense. Our attempts to disrupt our opponent's mana are not looking like they're going to be the most fruitful right now. However, if we can get Crucible of Worlds down and just start wastelanding every turn, then that will work for us. Okay, so they're going for it now so that we don't get to draw the card off the Spellbomb. Missing on that land was pretty clutch. Alright, so there is the reanimate, and now they just need to do that all over again. And the ponder that we knew about earlier. On the plus side, Archon doesn't draw as much for our opponent as the Atraxa does, so at least if they get into play and we answer it with a Sheoldred's Edict, it's not the end of the world. Retrofitter Foundry. You are a Magic the Gathering card, technically, aren't you? Let's play you. You've got this Wasteland. I don't think I'm Wastelanding here. Like, we want to get the Crucible of Worlds down. And then we can just Wasteland to our heart's content. But we have a win condition now. Is it going to be good enough against a dedicated blue-black reanimated deck? Well, it's not even that dedicated, is it? That's the problem with the blue-black reanimated deck. You don't have to dedicate that much of your deck to making it a powerful reanimated deck. You just put some reanimation spells in and the entombs. You don't have to play like Careful Studies and all that sort of jazz. Show and tell. Sure. Wait, they had another Atraxa. Okay, so maybe they are a dedicated graveyard combo deck. More so. There is a Lotus Petal there. Okay. They can't take both Psychic Frogs, so we click that one off. It doesn't look like it's going to be a good time for us. Like, we kill this, they reanimate it. And that's almost worse for us than not killing it. Not enjoying that one very much. What is the plan? I guess the plan is to draw something useful. If we draw a Bojuka Bog, we can kill this and then Bojuka Bog it and shut off some of their reanimates, but they still have Entomb. So the fact is they're a dedicated combo deck. They're not like a tempo build. They're just running the Psychic Frogs. That's probably their only tempo creature. And they've got the Show and Tells alongside the reanimate stuff. Show and Tell's kind of a brave one given the amount of like reanimator and big stuff people are running. Okay, Psychic Frog, reanimate, animate dead, Entomb, Lotus Petal. Sure. Just a cheeky draw 5. I left the card on top. Playing out the Lotus Petal. Killing this does not feel good. Letting this live also feels bad. Okay, so I guess this is free to do, more or less. Let's take out one of their lands and replay it because we haven't drawn a land for turn. Are we going to Sheoldred's Edict this creature? I guess so. I guess you wait till they reanimate something else. Do they do it pre-combat? I don't know. If they're doing it pre-combat, then that might suggest they have a way of making some creatures at instant speed via something like a Shallow Grave. That would be a reason to do it pre-combat. Oh, I hate this. Alright, you can attack us for 7. Like, live totals don't really matter in this matchup. We're POX. We're not going to be racing people. We're either going to have full control or we're going to have no control. And it's certainly feeling like the latter right now. There is an Entomb. What big monster do you have? This is a reasonable matchup for Ashok because we can exile graveyard. Valvagoth. Yeah, you're going to reanimate that one? I guess we can draw back-to-back Sheoldred's Edicts. You haven't seen this card, it's pretty messed up. Ward, sacrifice 3 non-permanents, flying, lifelink. Alright, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Let's try this now. We'll keep reading its text. The card you didn't control will be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile instead, so kind of like a ley line. And then during your turn, you may play cards, exile with Valvagoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life rather than its mana value. Alright, they got rid of the Atraxa. How are we going to deal with this Valvagoth? I think we're going to deal with it by pressing the concede button. Powerful strategy. Okay, so sideboarding. I would like some Graveyard Hate. That's a given. I would like these Ashioks. Those are also helpful. I don't think any of this removal is where I want to be. This sort of stuff. The cage is where I want to be. The needle is okay, but I don't think we want that. So I think this is the selection of things we want. We've seen Lotus Petal, we've seen Daisies. They probably have Force of Wills as well, so I think we want to keep the Vexing Bauble in. Which means things get a little bit tricky as to what we're cutting. The hymn is a little bit sketchy actually, isn't it? Because we might end up just helping them out. Get rid of those. The Liliana is kind of bad for the same reason. So is the Smallpox though. Interesting. At least the Liliana can kill some of their stuff. Yeah, a bit awkward here. Let's get rid of a couple of small... We'll get rid of the Cabal Pit. We're not killing anything with the Cabal Pit in this match. And that leaves us with one more cut to finagle our way here. Just Sinkhole, maybe. Let's try something along those lines. Okay. I guess we keep this one. We can just dump our entire hand out if we want to. How much would I like to have access to the second land here? So this is 3 mana, 4/5. So this is 3, 4, 5. So we could play everything out, plus the Liliana, and get rid of our land. Or do I want to take this slightly slower? We could Dark Ritual on turn 1 to Thoughtseize and Cage. And turn 2 we can Liliana. I don't want to lose this Thoughtseize. I don't want to lose our Liliana to this Thoughtseize. Although we could deal with that in a different way. We could take this Brainstorm, and then we could Dark Ritual. And then we could play the Grafdigger's Cage. Then we could play the Liliana. Now, we don't have to plus this. Our opponent might well Thoughtseize us here. And then we get to keep our land. Maybe we draw like a Sinkhole. Sinkhole no good anymore. A Mishra's Factory. I want black mana. I also want to start chugging away with the Liliana. Alright, we're going to start doing the thing. So if we'd have done it last turn, we'd have been in the same spot we are now. We didn't know we were drawing a land, so I think we had to deal with it. Right, so they got rid of the Entomb. Makes sense when we have a Grafdigger's Cage in play. Undercity Sewers was their draw for turn. Either this turn or last turn. Right, Swamp. Let's remove a card from your hand. With the Thoughtseize. Could be the Atraxa. Maybe they can bounce our thing. It's just the Thoughtseize. Could be walking into a fatal push here. But we do need to get this game won at some point. Alright, we got the damage in. We can answer a Psychic Frog. Brazen Borrower is obviously very good against us right now. Polluted Delta. Right, we're turning on our land destruction now. Getting out another land. So if this is a creature, we obviously have to answer it. Show and tell. That is the downside of where we are at. So there's going to be the Atraxa in. We can at least deal with it to an extent. So there's lots of animate deaths. They can't take all of those. Pithing Needle was pretty darn good against our Liliana though. I don't believe they're going to take the Thoughtseize here. Archon of Cruelty. Animate Dead. Polluted Delta. Pithing Needle. Show and Tell. Okay. We know what we have to do with our Liliana at least. Sacrifice your terrifying monster, please. Bash with the Factory. So I've said it before on this channel that the blue-black reanimator deck, it has the decks that are like good at that aren't the blue-black reanimator deck in the meta right now are good because they are good into blue-black reanimator, whereas blue-black reanimator kind of kicks apart everything else. This is going to be the end of our Liliana. They're going to show and tell in an Archon of Cruelty. That's going to be pretty darn good, isn't it? So we get to put in the Karn. Actually, no, we don't. This is creature, land, artifact, enchantment. It was pre-Planeswalker, so we don't get to do this. So we lose the Karn, we lose the Liliana. Yeah, so we are just doing absolute piles of nothing here. If we can answer this right now, we're okay. This isn't right now, is it? Right, so here's our Retrofitter Foundry. So we take 9, and then we have one more turn to answer this. I guess we can make a flyer next turn and activate our factory. So we technically have 2 draw steps, but the second one is a very expensive draw step. It doesn't even feel like we're in this game, to be honest, like either time, even when we've got powerful sideboard cards. It is like specifically the show and tell element that is wrecking us. We don't have a good answer to that. Alright, let's make a guy. Another Pithing Needle. Interesting they're running multiples. I guess they're not a Saga deck, so they're obviously going to have multiples if they want them at all. I'm going to name my Retrofitter Foundry. They are. Okay. This 1/1 has to go the distance, really. Nope. Alright, we got absolutely smushed into the pavement right there. That's 4 rounds in the book. We are currently 3-1, which is a pretty respectable record. Like 3 wins with a POX deck in 2024 is a nice place to be. Let's see if we can make it 4 though. A good old-fashioned turn 1 Liliana and hope for the best. Why shouldn't I? I think it's probably turn 1 Urborg, Dark Ritual Lily. What are we discarding is the question. So it's probably one of these 3 cards on the left. So Bojuka Bog, the Cabal Pit, or the Urza Saga. Doesn't really narrow it down too much. They've mulliganed to 5. It's not many cards, is it? Gone are the days of Liliana on turn 1 just being completely backbreaking, but maybe it'll do enough. I think given our opponent's mulligan, we're going to get rid of one of the Sagas, because maybe we're going to want the Bojuka Bog or something. Discarded a Brainstorm. Okay, so we haven't helped them with a Reanimator plan immediately. That's nice. There's an island. A Ponder. We're going to make relatively short work of their hand, but it is going to be a slightly costly endeavour for us in terms of what we're playing ourselves. They did not shuffle off the Ponder. A Swamp. I think I'm okay to get rid of this Swamp now. They put anything in the graveyard that we want to... Okay, so this tells me that we probably don't need the Bojuka Bog anymore. That can go next turn. We can start getting our Saga running, make some constructs. We're already getting close to Ultimate in the Liliana, which means that our opponent's going to have to make some tough choices at some stage. Could be like a Bug Beans deck, or a multicolour Beans deck. Could be Bant, Nadu of some description. Oh, okay, we're just doing that, are we? I see. Goodbye, Cephalid Illusionist. If our opponent has exactly Cephalid Illusionist and Nomads, and then has a land, then that obviously sucks for us. But I don't really want to play into that if I can avoid it. Yeah, it is one of those things. If they have it, they have it. I'd much rather get a threat on board, because if they have it and they get us, sure. But if we don't make a threat, then the amount of time we give them to then have it in subsequent turns is enormous. So I don't think you can afford to play the safest way to survive. Like, there is a difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. And if you play POX and you play not to lose, sometimes you will just lose because our threats are so few and far between. I wouldn't mind taking out another creature with this Liliana. Our opponent has obliged. We don't even have to have the Cabal Pit deal less damage here. The Cabal Pit is not online yet though. Do I want to Saga here? Kind of need the guy. I think it's a similar calculation to last time. So Vexing Bauble is pretty good against the deck, but then so is the Nihil Spellbomb. Which of these is more interesting to me? I guess the Spellbomb lets us redraw. Let's see if our opponent wants to block. They do not. Lose a creature, please. I'll play this out, and I will strip your graveyard. I don't think they're going to have anything like a Murktide. At best, that would be a weird sideboard option. Not that weird, I guess, but... Alright. So we've got 6 power, which is plenty. That's all the power we should need to really win this game. We just need to control what our opponent's doing. So we can plus this Liliana, play our other Liliana, plus that, and then our opponent won't have any resources left. Our opponent has an Urza Saga. That's good. And they have a Nomads. That's also good. Okay. Wasteland is probably our best draw here. So, same but different, I guess, right? It's not as good, obviously, but it's pretty decent still. Let's get rid of that Saga. I think this is worth plussing. We're just going to get rid of our Thoughtseize. Thoughtseizes isn't doing anything anyway. I wouldn't get rid of a real card, but Thoughtseize at this stage of the game isn't a real card. We've sucked all the air out of this game. Alright. Brainstorm is not a bad one to have to fall back on. We are nearly at Threshold. We can obviously crack the Spellbomb to give us Threshold if we need it. Cephalid Illusionist. Oh dear. That's a pretty good find. They can't combo into the Spellbomb. They're going to attack into our Lily though. I guess we attack and see if our opponent wants to trade off a Illusionist here. Maybe just attack with 1, then we can defend the Liliana next turn. Keep the one with more loyalty, obviously. Please get rid of one of your halves of your combo. I think they get rid of the Illusionist here. Alright, no, they're going to mill until they hit an Archimedes, right? And we can't stop that, because then they can just combo freely over the top. Tough spot. Our opponent mulliganed a lot, we disrupted them a lot, and we are in trouble. Maybe we should have attacked with both constructs. They're just going to sacrifice this Narcomoeba. So what the Nihil Spellbomb does is it means they have to go through a Memory's Journey line. A to Faerie. Okay, so they just bounce our Nihil Spellbomb and win the game. Sure, we will just see what our opponent reveals. That was some incredible draws on our opponent's part there, but that is the power of the Illusionist deck. This is why I think this is the best deck that I would play at Eternal Weekend. If I had the reps with Breakfast and was going to Eternal Weekend, this is what I would play. I think Nardi Breakfast is just ridiculously strong right now. Let's pop their graveyard out. Let's see what else is in this list. It's interesting they're still on the Urza Saga plan. Some of the builds have just gone off that entirely. Some of them are running the other creature, the 2-mana version of Nomads, because more creatures are better with the Nadu rather than the Shuko, and obviously it gives you the ability to do it instant speed as well. Okay. What would you like to do here, opponent? Thassa's Oracle. Sure. That was awkward. So what helps us out here? Grafdigger's Cage helps. Pithing Needle can sometimes help. The Ashok isn't really what we want here. I don't hate the Deluge, and I like the Macabres. That's probably all I'm in for here. There is an argument for these Feed the Swarms. We can use them to blow up their creatures as well as blowing up their Urza Saga. So I'm in for that. I think the Smallpox is pretty good here. All of these things are pretty good too. The Bojuka Bog is no good because we need an instant speed for it to actually matter here. The Hymn is good. The Sinkholes are fine. Our opponent's mana is a little bit sketchy. This is a really tough matchup to Cyborg because their deck just does too many things. Maybe we're supposed to say no to the Smallpox. Try and just have 1-for-1 removal instead. It's a bit of a tricky call, that one, because they can just float their creatures in play. But our removal is always sorcery speed. So maybe the feed... Is it the case of do I want to feed the Swarms because they kill the Sagas? I think that's good enough, actually. Sorry, Smallpox. I know you're the titular card of our deck, but not today. I'd still want the Karns. Do I want the Karns? Actually, maybe it's the Karns that go. That just leaves us finding 2 more cuts. We want a Graved Hate. We want the removal. Pithing Needle is fine, but is it good enough? And they just bounce it with Teferi. We can always name Teferi, I suppose. Let's get rid of that. I quite like the Sinkhole still. Maybe we'll take out 1 Dark Ritual. Alright, this matchup feels horrible. Okay, let's hope that you don't want your permanent. So we don't have a win condition here. But that is going to be the case often with our deck. So let's get this Thoughtseize going. And then we can just Sinkhole, Sinkhole, Sinkhole. Don't really want them having this Nomads. Because they don't have any fetches either, we're definitely going to be catching stuff with these Sinkholes. I wonder if they play out the Plains first. Thinking they're safe from Wastelands. They do. And guess what, opponent? Practice Wasteland. And then I will Sinkhole this. Next turn that allows us to play Urza Saga and another Sinkhole. Hedge Maze. Okay, so we knew what they drew for turn. This one out. No lands for you, opponent. And Urza Saga. We probably want to hit this before it can make mana. But now we're in the classic bind that you have with land destruction decks where we've blown out some of their lands, but if they just have more lands, then, you know, they had a pretty land heavy draw and now they're absolutely laughing about it. Another Saga, sure. Make a construct. Good on our turn. So if we make a Dark Ritual here, then we get to get a Wasteland as well. I think we could just keep on the Wasteland plan, or we could go for the other Saga plan and get another Saga running. I think I can beat what comes out of this Saga though. I think we're just going to try and make this a non-game because I think our opponent's deck is just so much better than ours. I think the Scepter Breakfast deck is very, very, very strong. There's the Tundra, so we're going to see an ending on one of our guys probably here. Just to stem the tide. They go from taking 4 damage a turn to 1 damage a turn. That's an enormous change. But we at least have Spellbomb. That does something here. Another Saga. That is a great pickup. Actually, when we waste down to that Saga, they can still make colourless mana because of our Urborg. So we actually need to wasteland it immediately. But maybe our opponent didn't see that. If we're going to wasteland it anyway, worth trying to make our opponent make a mistake. Now our opponent can start playing some real spells out. Look at this. So they're just going to be able to get us next turn. And a Shuko. Okay, so we have no way of really dealing with them unless we Fell the Profane. We could Fell the Profane this and hope they miss on a land. Or we could attack and hope they miss on a land. I guess we should make the attack first. If they block here, we make a construct and we end up with the same deal anyway. Am I making a construct? If I'm making constructs this turn, I want to make this now. This is an instant, so I guess we can hold this up actually. Yeah, that works out alright. If they find a land, we can kill the Nomads in response. And then we'll end up with a 3/4/4, so we can attack into the Nadu anyway. A Cephalid Illusionist. Do I care about this enough? We can make a load of guys. That is kind of annoying. The Illusionist can always go off because they have the Shuko as well. So I think we just have to say, sure. I don't believe they're attacking here. Let's make a construct. So if we make this construct, we don't get to try and kill Nadu to play if they draw a land. Is that acceptable? I think it is. So we can get the Grafdigger's Cage, or we can get the Vexing Bauble. Vexing Bauble stops them. I guess the cage stops them doing Memory's Journey lines as well. Mishra's Factory, we'll go to attacks. This can be 12 damage if they don't block. The purpose of activating this here is that we put our opponent to 2, so our factory is also lethal. So we need our opponent to brick on 1 turn here. Or brick on land for 1 turn. Now, even if they do get to do a bunch of stuff, it might not be enough. Because they could draw a bunch of cards. Alright, yeah. Okay, I didn't have the land. Whew. Tough whole game. Do I want the sinkholes just to really enter Dirtville for our opponent? It's so problematic for our own game plan having these smallpoxes. It is the only thing that can... I don't know, we have a deluge as well that can deal with it. And maybe I'll get rid of some... Actually, I don't think the Faerie Macabres are very good here. I know we can hit their graveyard stuff, but if they're going off at instant speed, they can just keep going and then Memory's Journey and then blank their Faerie Macabre. So I think I'm okay to do that. And then maybe just get rid of 1 deluge because it's more expensive. We could have the Ashroks, but I just don't like them that much. We can stop them from using fetch lands. We can also stop them from using their Urza Saga. But something has to go, and I don't think I want to get rid of the other things. Because we're boiling up our opponent's lands, they're really incentivized to try and play to the board when they can, which means the Toxic Deluge can sweep things up. Alright. This is for everything. This is the 4-1 or the 3-2. The honour of all POX players at stake. Piece of graveyard hate. Some land destruction. Maybe enough lands that we can get away with our Smallpox on 2. So we go Urborg into Nihil Spellbomb. This means that we can sacrifice our swamp to a Smallpox rather than our Mishra's Factory and keep a win condition around and still have black because our opponent is not going to mess with our mana. The Seven of Breakfast deck just doesn't have the space to do mana messing around with. A potential removal spell for the future in our Cabal Pit. Spellbomb in, so we're not just going to get completely womboed by an immediate breakfast combo. What have you got for me, opponents? A Brainstorm. So Daze is decidedly good against Sinkhole, which is something we have to fear a little bit. Alright, they're cracking the Windswept Heath. Are they going to play a creature? If they do, then I will Sinkhole. Play that Nomads. Yeah, okay. Sinkhole time it is. Sorry, not Sinkhole, Smallpox. I think we've been off the deluge here. A Force of Negation. Pitching Force of Will. Okay, this suggests to me that my opponent is going to play Nardu next turn, and then they're going to draw 4 cards, and then they're going to go to our turn, and they're going to draw 4 cards. And then they're going to go to their turn and draw 4 cards. And at some point in there, they will just win the game. Can Teferi bounce our Spellbomb? Yup, here we are. This is why I think the Breakfast deck is so good. It can just combo through Graveyard Hate, or it can just immediately win if you don't have the Graveyard Hate. It's got card advantage, it's got redundancy in the combos, because you have 2 different combos that both basically win the game. You've got yourself, and you know, the cards still do stuff on their own. It has counter magic, so it can protect what it's doing, and it has Teferi as a nice catch-all bounce thing that also means you can go off in Castle Shuko, get your attack in for 2 here. Suffice to say, things have gotten difficult. So we can Toxic Deluge here, which cleans up both of these. But then they play a Nardu and start activating, and they have 2 creatures here. So we need to be able to Sinkhole and Toxic Deluge. That doesn't sound like a thing that's actually realistic or even possible. Do I want this Saga in play now, or do I want this Factory? We're not going to have the mana to activate Saga next turn, so I think I'm just going to play out the Factory. So they have this other Nardu in hand, which is an issue. Yep, you can draw some cards. They might draw a Force here. We're not technically dead, but it does feel like we're going to be dead. Okay, so if they find a Cephalid Illusionist, they can just mill out and cast the Oracle here. There's a Daze, they can Daze our thing if they want to. And why wouldn't they? Yeah, we are not winning this game. Our opponent's deck is too strong for us. Like I said, with our deck, we are either in control or massively behind and not able to win a game. And the Nardu deck is so hard to wrangle, that Nardu Breakfast deck, because it has so many lines of attack and can combo so cheaply and has like the best protection in counter spells and stuff. It's just a toughie. So we finished with 3-2, which is still a pretty acceptable record for the old POX deck. So let's talk about this build. So the problem we have with this deck is kind of similar to every time you play a POX deck. Win conditions. We can't reliably win the game. We kind of need to stall everything out and then hope for the best afterwards, that we're going to draw something. And that worked out for us this time, but there are a lot of times where it doesn't. The other issue we have is sometimes our disruption isn't good enough. Like, Smallpox can set us back too far. And people in Legacy play such low to the ground efficient things a lot of the time. So if you're looking at like blue-black tempo decks, they're playing 1-drops that can beat you down. They're playing Psychic Frog, which is obviously able to recover card advantage lost. And they can play on low mana really well. So if they just have threats and we don't have an answer, they're going to be able to deploy them because they're probably going to have lands unless we've managed to somehow grind them out of all of them. So it is tricky. Also think the Karn board here not having a Mycosynth Lattice was a bit weird. There was definitely a time where we could have reached for that. We still won that game, but it was definitely something I thought maybe we could reach for that. But again, we are just running 2 Karns. And that's probably to help with things like the Mystic Forge matchup, where we just get to use it as a null rod, and that's good enough. And it sort of denies what we're doing, because we obviously can't really interact with artifacts outside of the Karn, but the Karn is like the best in sort of interaction for that, so that's pretty tasty. We don't have any card advantage engines. Normally, my preferred build of Loam would, my preferred build of POX would be a black-green Loam build. Way back in the day, I used to enjoy the old Death Cloud deck in Extended, which was basically a POX deck, except your POX was Death Cloud, where you pay X and then they lose X things, but you also sometimes run Smallpox in that as well. And Loam was just a really good way of breaking that up. We're trying to do the same thing with Crucible of Worlds here. The plus side is we get a much smoother mana base. The downside is Crucible of Worlds, as much as I adore this card, is not as powerful an engine as Life from Alone. Life from Alone does just undo all the damage of Smallpox very easily, and you can do it on 2 mana, which is a massive difference compared to Crucible of Worlds. And with the Loam, that's just another thing you can discard to Liliana, get more cards to discard to Liliana, so you can keep real spells in, so it has more synergy with her as well. So I do prefer the black-green Loam POX, but this was fun. I enjoyed Sinkholing people a tremendous amount. Sinkhole is the sort of card that is never amazing, like as a thing in your deck, really. It's a placeholder that does some stuff. It's going to win you some games where you cheese it out, I guess. So I suppose in some respects it is amazing in a narrow set of circumstances. And we're just trying to max out on this sort of effect. So maybe, that's okay, but I'm not sure the Sinkhole is necessarily worth it. I do like the hymns. Obviously they become worse in the later game, but it's just a really powerful thing to do. I think Hymn to Tourach is definitely what feels like a pretty run-of-the-mill legacy power level card. You don't see it that often these days. But like whenever you cast one and have one cast against you, it definitely feels pretty strong. Whereas Sinkhole can sometimes not be great. You're paying 2 mana for a Wasteland is what it feels like sometimes. And that's obviously not great. But the fact that you can hit basics did come up today, and that was an important factor. And we did get to ruin some people's days, so that was nice. But I think it's going to take a lot for a POX deck to suddenly become the place where you want to be in the meta. But we are expecting some bans in December. Who knows? Maybe things get shaken up a little bit and POX gets a little bit of new life breathed into it as things slow down a little bit in a way where our denial strategy actually works a bit better. But I would like to play some green-black POX at some point. I'm sure I've played it before on the channel. I'm sure I'll play it again in the future. But that's kind of where my heart lies a bit more. You know me, I like casting black-green style effects. I think Smallpox is just a really awkward one to break the synergy of, the symmetry of. And Monoblack does feel like an interesting way of doing that. I wouldn't mind having some Bloodghasts. Like if these Sinkholes were Bloodghasts, is that better for us? That gives us some creatures that come back. Do we have enough lands to really make that work? 26 is quite a lot of lands. The fact we're not running Mox Diamond means we just have more solid lands, which I did quite like. I think Mox Diamond is a thing that people lean on, but I don't like it in POX unless you have the Life from the Loam. It just feels like you're pitching too many cards and you have that and a Smallpox, and all of a sudden things get a bit awkward and you find yourself losing to your own cards a bit too often in my experience. In all, I do enjoy playing POX and I think it's a fun one if that's your sort of jam, and it very much is mine. Wasteland is one of my favourite Magic the Gathering cards of all time, so by all means jump on the POX train. Don't expect it to be taking down things like Eternal Weekend, but you never know. You can have a really hot run and get people down. This is clearly not like a tier 1 or 2 deck, but it's not embarrassing to play either, as we showed today. You can certainly come away with a positive record, and I'd be more than happy to jam this into like smaller events, although I'm not sure my opponents would feel the same. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. We're getting very close to 4K subscribers here, which is a nice big benchmark. I thank everyone who has subscribed so far. Alright, thank you for watching and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.